these are all things that I would definitely want to put a disclaimer in that are not good to do. And I've got a 10-year-old son, and I wouldn't want him doing these things. But I'm just telling the story as I remember it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what what that you did as a kid that you don't want your son over here to do. I think you just mentioned a bunch of them.
Once you find a love like mine, you know that.
Gdayall, and welcome to episode 7. And to quote my favorite Jack Skeleton, this is Halloween, my most favorite holiday. And we'll be talking more about Halloween with our guest today, Shawn Yates from Indiana. Phil, good morning. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. And better off being here than anywhere.
That's right. Better when you're on the right side of the ground. Yeah. Are you excited for Halloween coming?
Well, not so much this year because of COVID, and that puts a little damper on it. But, we'll get through it, and next year will be bigger and better. And we'll be talking about our Halloween past and Halloween in the future. And I understand that you had a thing from your mom about cooking your goose or something like that?
Yes. So, Mom, going back to Greece from last week, she's got a story, and I will quote it. So she sent an email. My grandmother insisted on having a goose for Thanksgiving instead of turkey. She was a good cook, but that must have been her first goose. It was so greasy that we were not feeling that well on the ride home. My dad stopped at the liquor store, the only place open on Thanksgiving. Actually, I'm a bit sus on that. I wonder if Grandpa picked up something as well as the Kelso seltzer water. And then when he got home, we all sat around the kitchen table with a glass of this stuff, let nature take its course, and burp the grease away. He never let her forget it, and she never cooked goose again.
Yeah, well, goose is a fatty bird, just sort of like a duck, I guess because they need that extra layer of fat for the water to make them more buoyant and gets out to their feathers. But it is, I guess, a greasy food if you don't press it.
Well, yeah, she must not have rendered it, but that was her bit on the greasiest thing I think she's ever eaten, and she loved that grandmother very much. So she's now that she's no longer with us, we can let the secret out.
Yeah. So going on, and also got drips and drabs here from Brendan, our producer, that our audiences keeps on growing. Could you believe that?
Of course, we're awesome. Why wouldn't they?
I know we're awesome, but maybe we just think we're awesome. I mean, I think I'm good looking when I look in the mirror, but that's only my opinion.
Well, my dad's favorite song was Mac Davis. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. Yeah. Well, I think people just love food and people love candy, and don't we all like to remember when we were kids and having so much fun? So people are sharing our podcast into Canada, the US, all over Australia. So it's a great thing. So if you like it, share it, subscribe, and review us if you like.
Yeah, and thank you all for listening to us and putting up with us. Well, everybody puts up with us.
That's exactly right. And soon we are going to do this inside on the sales floor inside the store, so people can come and have a gander.
Live and in person.
That's exactly right. So, you never know what treats we might have, and people might be able to give us their opinion in person.
Yep. So we'll let everybody know well in advance. So we got to wait some of these restrictions to settle down here in Victoria. And once that is all done, then we'll give you, again, plenty of advance notice so you could get here and join in on the fun.
That is right. Now, on to today's podcast. So, as I said, my very favorite holiday, October 31st, Saturday, is not only Halloween, it's a Saturday, and it's a full moon. What could go wrong?
It could rain, snow. I don't know. We always worried about as a kid, come Halloween, what is the weather going to be?
Oh, I know. Well, even from California, it was still cold, and my mother always made me wear a coat over my costume. Like I was just like, but Mom, I'm a princess. Princesses don't wear coats.
Yeah, well, we used to, the same thing where we were. I don't know if it gets colder up north. And we just layered everything and put our costumes over what we had on. So if we had to wear a coat, the costumes went over the coat.
Oh, well, you were better at that than we were. Maybe my mother just didn't want me to be out in the plastic costume. I have no idea. Now, we get this occasionally being sort of from two continents. Halloween. So a lot of people go, oh, it's just that American holiday. But actually, Halloween is a Celtic holiday. So we have, the fact is, Phil, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about the origins?
Well, it is a Celtic holiday. It started on, because it's like a pagan day that follows by a holy day. So All Saints Day. So that's how it all started going on. And, the Spanish and the Mexicans, they all celebrate it in a different way. And that's almost like a tribute to the dead that they celebrate. But, when we first started this way back, when we had our second store in Bentley, and we really were at the forefront of bringing Halloween to the masses here in Australia because nobody was doing it. And we had literally hundreds of kids and families dressed up on Halloween. And we got the local council to do with Center Road there to get all the stores involved. And once they realized how good it was, they all joined in because it brought a lot of people to the neighborhood. And when they were there, they finding stores that they never knew were there before. They were buying and shopping, and the kids just loved it. But we always, like as you mentioned, we always had these people. You Americans, you always got this is a pagan thing. Why are you doing this? So why don't you keep it over in America? Hey, why don't you read history? Lady.
It's everywhere, and we used to be one of the first in our street because of me. And luckily I married a Halloween nut as well. So it's perfect. But we would put out our jack-o'-lantern and then, we'd have to get we'll talk about that in a little bit, like a different sort of pumpkin. But we'd put something out and decorate a bit. And the neighbors would go, oh, is it Halloween? Great. I'll get some candy. Or I'll get some lollies. And the kids, people would travel like a couple suburbs over because they knew about this crazy Halloween house. And now it's just nuts, which is fantastic because my kids, did the store, went trick-or-treating in Bentley on Center Road, and it was amazing to see people do what we love doing. And it's great memories, and it's fun for the kids. I mean, it's a kids' holiday. Let them have it.
It is. And that's one thing I always went back to people when they started, mouthing off to me about, how dare us do this, and I said, what do you got against kids? Because this is for kids. This is a kid's joy. The kids, look how happy they are. They get all dressed up. They get lollies and candies. What else do you want as a kid? Don't you like that? Go back in your house and lock the door.
That's exactly right. Well, luckily it has now changed and children are looking forward to it now and not being yelled at the front door, the door slammed at them. Now our guest today, we're going to talk to him. I wonder if he has a few insights on maybe how not to behave on Halloween as a young boy.
I'm sure he does.
Maybe, just a few. And Phil, what did you get at? What was your neighborhood Halloween like?
Well, I remember my first early Halloweens when I lived in the Bronx. And it was, before all the packaged candies and everything. And it was a lot of homemade treats that we used to get. So, going from like the candy apples to other pieces of cake and things like that people would actually make. And, that lasted until, I guess, people started spiking their stuff with needles and everything,
That's right.
And then when I moved over to Brooklyn and being a bit older, it was just just an event that we ran home from school, got changed, grabbed our bags to carry stuff in, and went and hit all the apartment houses, all the houses, and do everything, in a systematic order so we don't repeat, going up and down flights of stairs, and and then getting so much candy, we had to go back home, get something to eat, dump the candy, and then go back out again. Okay. And
yeah, you had a high concentration of people. You had it made.
Yeah, because you had all these apartment houses. And then the other thing is, like you're going up and down the stairs, right? And the kids are saying, oh, don't go to so-and-so. They got nothing there. Or go up to apartment 5G. They got a lot of good stuff. Or at the end of the day, when people ran out of candy, that was the best part because then you got money.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
here's some quarters.
Yeah, no quarters. You just got pennies, but it added up. At the end of the day, you had $2 or something, and that was like, oh, I made $2,
Yes, I remember. I liked it when we got that, and it was the only time my mother let me go out without my. We all went out without adults, most of us, or there'd be one parent with a bunch of kids. But as we got older, we just, go in and, like you said, dump the candy, go back for the second round.
Yeah,
and depending how bad your feet hurt, you'd keep going because I had houses, so I had no concentration of good candy. I had to keep going, but
you really had to schlep it then.
We did have to schlep it, and then you knew which was the rubbish house, and you had to go on to the next one. And there were so many front yards that were spooky, haunted houses that you had to kind of dodge your way through it to earn your candy. So if you were scared, you didn't get it. So you had to suck it up and run through. And also, we were in sort of a ritzier neighborhood for a little bit of time, and trick-or-treating, they would give out in the street whole candy bars. It was a whole Snickers. It wasn't a fun size. It was magic. And then also there was a dentist who lived on that street, and he gave out toothbrushes.
Well, he made plenty of money off of everybody eating all the candy.
Yeah, that was right. I think he probably ended up with a few of those toothbrushes in his shrubs as we walked out, just piffed them. And my mother, now I don't know if your parents checked your candy, but my mother would always be very suspicious of her favorite candies, which would be like a Nestle's Crunch. Yeah, and she would go, I think that looks a little suspicious. I'm going to hang on to those. You can have the rest, but I'm going to keep these to the side because, just in case anything bad's happened. It was such a good scam for her.
Yeah. No, I don't remember anybody like my mom or dad, going through my candy. And also we just went out. There was no escorts. But it really didn't until I was just about out of Halloween trick-or-treating, when you get to a certain age, you don't do it anymore. That's when it really started getting pretty nasty. Kids were throwing eggs at the buses and, spraying shaving cream on everybody and just making a big mess of things. So
you did.
I didn't go through that phase. I mean, the only thing that we did, we used to get old socks, right? And get the street chalk, that big fat chalk things. And we used to buy them at 3 for a nickel or something like that at Elsie's, and put them into the socks and then try to bash it down and then even throw it underneath the cars as they're going by to run it over to make it more like a pottery thing, right? And then you tie it up and then you whack things with, and it leaves that mark of the chalk on there, which is pretty harmless because it just washes off. But we also marked everybody else up, who's trick or treating. And then when it's cold, you slap somebody in the back of the leg, and it will just sting, because you're cold and you hit somebody with it. But it was that was probably the most mischievous. Can't even get that word out. You know what I mean? Thing that we were doing at the time. We never got into my friends and all that, like with Johnny that we spoke to last week. We never got into throwing eggs or anything. That was just pretty disgusting. I
think you definitely came from a tougher neighborhood than us. I don't remember anyway. Toilet papering trees, I do remember, but that's another story for later, perhaps. And actually, speaking of those sort of stories, possibly, it's now time to welcome our guest today,
Shawn Yates.
Welcome, Shawn.
Hey, what's up, guys?
It's a good day. We're going to be talking about Halloween and some fun. But first of all, we need to hear the Shawn story in about 60 seconds.
Well, I'm going to have to give you only a decade or so of that then. The last decade is me coming to USA Foods about 4 years ago. Took me until I was 45 years old to find the job of my lifetime. I love being here. I love USA Foods. I love everyone that I work with. and moved to the United States 17 years ago, and met my wife a year and a half later, which is probably the solid reason why I'm still here. And basically came from a background of warehousing and grocery, so both of those things fit in perfectly with USA Foods. And like I said, very excited to be here. I'm excited to be with the team. Excited to talk about Halloween.
And you run a tight ship, and we've got lots of Halloween treats we might not have if it hadn't been for you. So thank you.
All right, that's what I do.
So what is your what was your typical experience growing up? So in Indiana, is that, where you spent most of your Halloweens?
Yep. So I definitely spent the first 23 years of my life in Indiana. So that meant very early sunsets and very cold Halloween evenings. So most of our outfits were something to do with being warm. So my Halloween experience definitely changed with age. And I always say Halloween is very nice to grow with you. As a child, you go where your parents take you, and then you get a little bit of independence and you kind of run to neighborhoods. And so I was from a town of 14,000 people. We always found it best to go trick-or-treating in a smaller town even than that. So if you go to a town of about 800 people, you could hit every house. And so you could kind of logistically plan it out. And I really feel Halloween kind of teaches you life skills in general. After you get your haul, you learn how to negotiate by trading things you don't like with other kids. It's a little bit of
I forgot about that part of it. Yeah,
a little bit of stock market, early trading type of learning. Yeah. So Halloween is a very learning event, really. And as you get a little bit older, coming from a small town, we knew where the teachers lived, and so we kind of done the trick end of that, where we throw a little bit of toilet paper in their very almost naked trees, as the time of year it was. So it was very, you had to wait until it rained to get the toilet paper out of their trees. Also, we would use ivory soap to, soap people's windows with some messages just to let them know we were there. Occasionally threw an egg. Occasionally smashed people's pumpkins. These are all things that I would definitely want to put a disclaimer in that are not good to do. And I've got a 10-year-old son, and I wouldn't want him doing these things, but I'm just telling the story as I remember it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what that you did as a kid that you don't want your son over here to do. I think you just mentioned a bunch of them.
Well, we always had a friend that had a cool dad, and everybody does, and he had a van. He'd pull up, we'd roll out like a squad, and hit an area, get back in the van, and run off. I'd really rather Kobe not be doing that. Mm-hmm. It was different times back then, so I don't think anybody was going to come at you too hard for Halloween antics.
Yeah.
No, and it was the only time I can remember, although I did a lot of stuff because my mom worked and my mom and dad worked, so I had a lot more freedom, I suppose. But it used to blow me away, be nighttime, and I could go out on my own, and because it was Halloween, nothing was going to happen except some candy and maybe some hijinks. But it's very different now, and here it's not dark until about 9 o'clock on Halloween, so you can't turn the porch light out. You have to keep telling the kids you don't have anything left if they come around.
Yeah, I think the nighttime thing was a little bit. For me, I thought it was better, but definitely looking back on it, it's unsafe. Things that I used to think were really cool, I look back on and think that are unsafe. We had a man who would give out full-size candy bars, and we found out that he would give them out all year long, just not on Halloween. But thinking back on that now, that doesn't really seem like the safest environment, really.
Yeah. It sounds like that old guy on Family Guy,
I think this guy was the inspiration for him.
We used to have people come to my mom's court in a van, and everyone would hop out. I think one year my mom gave out 400 treat bags, and she had to turn on the light. Kids were still coming. It blows people away here sometimes when I tell them, I go to work dressed up. at Halloween, like when I was at home, and the bank tellers would be dressed up, or you'd go to school dressed up. It's like a whole day of it.
Halloween's really, really good for that. I mean, it lets kids be kids and it lets adults be adults. It's kind of, it's for everybody. And I don't really like dress up parties that are themed, that I've got to dress up like the 20s or anything specifically. But if someone has a Halloween party and you can dress up as whatever you want, that's the best adult party for me, really.
Yeah, and I think that was the evolution of it. Like, as you said before, you live with it because you grow up going out trick or treating with your friends and stuff. You maybe get a little havoc afterwards, and then as you became 18 and 19, you had girlfriends and stuff, and then you started going to Halloween parties, which was a whole different atmosphere. And some of the best parties I went to were Halloween parties. Just what people came up with as being dressed up with and stuff, and it was just so much fun, and even getting there, to the places.
It's a great night just to have fun and forget who you are, and try to surprise people. We had I'm from Northern California, and my friend Zaina lived in San Francisco for a while, and in her area, Robin Williams lived there. And he used to put on like a full-on carnival circus in his front yard. So he'd have street performers and rides, and then, they'd give out candy as well. So he sort of did it for the neighborhood. And she's lucky to, she had 2 daughters, so her eldest was able to go there a few times. He lived next door to Sharon Stone. She wasn't so generous with the candy, I found out.
That doesn't surprise me for some reason.
Yeah, me either.
I definitely agree, though. The best parties I've probably been to in my life and of my memory are Halloween parties. It's a fun environment, and it's you can't even tell who you're talking to at these parties because of the masks and things, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's something that hasn't evolved here yet. So maybe we should start promoting that. Is for the adults to start enjoying Halloween and these masquerade parties and stuff, and because they are so much fun and they're so creative.
Well, I'm hoping this pandemic makes everybody realize how many things they took for granted in life and start appreciating the joys of life. And that could be one of them.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And I think the Australians love a good dress up party. Like, as in, I'm married to someone that doesn't like dressing up for dress up parties. So I know the pain, Shawn. But everyone seems to have like a dress up theme party. So they should be able to embrace the Halloween idea. I think that would be a good thing.
Okay, so I'll ask this question. What was your most memorable thing that you dressed up as? I'll ask both of you.
Okay, when you guys invited me to this podcast to speak about Halloween today, I literally had to call my mother in the States to remind me what I dressed up as a kid, because I only can remember one costume. And that was a hobo, which was a homeless person who used to live down by the trains. And I love the costume. It's my only memory. So when I called my mother, I'm like, what else did I dress as? And she said pretty much every year I dressed up like a hobo. Because she was a single mother, and you can kind of dress up like a hobo for free, really. Gather things from around the house. So I didn't mind it. It was a bit different every year, even though it was the same character. But other than that, I don't really remember dressing up when we went out doing the tricking. I think we were kind of trying to not be noticed at all. So we were kind of dressed up in black at that point.
Yeah. How about as you got older, as when you went to the parties?
Well, I was kind of dressing
as a hobo.
No, more of like we would always kind of dress up like in 70s type of clothes. We'd always go to the Salvos or the St. Vinny's, stuff like that, and get some like 70s big collars, stuff like that. I never really was one to spend a lot of money on Halloween because I really never had any. But it's a holiday that you can pull together without spending much money. That's for sure.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember probably also dressing up as a hobo or a bum, So, and that was an easy costume because, again, it was no cost. And what I remember, the old bottle caps had cork in them. Remember that? I don't know if you guys remember that. So my father used to take the cork out of the bottle cap, get his lighter, light the cork, and then blow it out, let it cool down. And because it's now like a charcoal, and use that as to make a mustache, to make sideburns. And that was like our little bit of artwork, and then of course, some regular clothes and going back to the chalk thing, hit yourself with the chalk sock. And then as my most memorable thing as we got older going to parties, I dressed up as the dirty old man and Jeanette dressed up as the little girl. There was that little skit on Saturday Night Live or somewhere, or Rowan and Martin, right?
Was that at Jeffrey Epstein's place?
Yeah, it might have been a pre-Jeff. Maybe that's how we got the idea. So my costume, so Jeanette helped me make it. So I had a trench coat that I used to wear to work and stuff like that. So that was the outer part. And then we got like this hat that I put on. And then she got an old pair of pants and cut off from the knee down and put elastic around it. So when I had the my jacket over it, you could see it looked like I had pants on. And then I would flash somebody and had like these underwear that said Home of the Whopper or something like that on it. And she made the imitation swans. And that would be the, and that was like, everybody loved that costume. It was just really great because it was just a surprise that I was this dirty old man, then I could flash somebody with it. I still do that. No.
The times have changed. The times have changed.
There might be issues with that one, yeah?
I can't even hear the word trench coat anymore and feel all right about it.
My mother will correct me. I am sure we'll get an email. That's fine. But every uncomfortable plastic mask that when people are complaining about mask wearing now, I'm just thinking of all the Halloweens I spent with the condensation inside my face. And a mouth hole cutting my face, and a plastic poncho, whether I was a princess or Wonder Woman or Snoopy. As I got older, I do remember going to a party as a toddler, and I had a baby bottle that happened to have Kahlua in it. I do remember that.
That's nice.
It was nice. It was just very quiet on the down low. Now, I spent yesterday, because, we've all had kids that don't have the experiences that we've had. So my daughter and I spent yesterday watching Halloween things. So we watched The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, which I used to love as a kid because it was only on once a year. So if you missed it, you didn't see it till next October. Like that was it. It was gone. And then we watched a few other, like Nightmare Before Christmas and a few other Halloween movies that we love. But we used to have, The Simpsons do it. There used to be Halloween shows like Christmas shows every series that was on.
How much better were shows when you had to watch them when they came on or you weren't ever going to see them again? That's what made shows much better.
Oh, that's right. And you talk about it at school. It's like, it's going to be on tonight. And then you made sure that you could sit there. And then you'd have to, if you needed something to drink or go to the bathroom, you had to wait for the commercial and you had to run and run back. There was definitely made it much more special.
Remember the shadows, and not even the show, the shadows, but, the TV, you just have to try to adjust it to get the antenna right because you got shadows and stuff, and of course that all went away when cable TV came out. But prior to that, watching TV was a hit or miss type thing.
Once a year you could watch Grease. Once a year you could watch Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, until the VCR came out, and, that then nobody could figure out how to program it.
And I used to remember, like, they used to put on the Abbott and Costello, the movie where they had all the monsters in it. So you had Bela Lugosi, you had the Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman.
That's a classic.
Yeah, and it used to be on. It's just like I was so excited when we used to see it because it would scare you, but it was funny, and you knew like the season was happening.
Well, Halloween's definitely come a long way since I moved here 17 years ago. It was my father was in the confectionery business, and he was wishing it was a thing, but it was not a thing. And just even last year, I went to your neighborhood, Barbara, and your neighborhood is a Halloween neighborhood, which is a beautiful thing because everybody's involved. And it reminded me of back home quite a bit. So my son, he's loved Halloween for about the past 4 years. He's almost 11 years old, so he's getting on the edge of being too cool for it. but he always says it's his favorite holiday, even more than Christmas.
It just makes it's like a real festival for the kids. And as a grown up, you get to be a little kid again. You get to have that joy again as well.
There's no gift giving pressure or anything like that. It's just a nice, fun holiday.
Shawn will be able to say, our house, we do go all out usually.
And then some.
And then some. And Brendan, my husband, dresses up often like green hedge, zombie, scary, and we like to scare the children.
It is very impressive. Very impressive.
And you have to earn your candy, because that was the thing. It wasn't a walk in the park. You had to earn it. And we had this a neighbor. I know him by face, but he lives down another street. He was there one year with his little boy, who was about 5, the poor kid, and the kid was too afraid to come up to the door. And his dad's like, "Man up, earn the candy, get up there."
How are the haunted houses where you guys grew up?
We didn't have any of that. I the only recall that I had something like that. I mean, we made up our own, where in the alleyways of the apartment houses, we used to get some of the young kids and say we had this haunted house, and like kids would be hiding in it and jumping out and scaring them. But we used to get them around, like we used to find like an old wagon or a baby carriage, and put them in that, and then run real fast and try to scare them and all that. That was the closest thing to a haunted house in my neighborhood.
But wasn't New York in the 70s sort of like a haunted house?
Drug house, haunted house. Yeah,
that's what the license plate said, the haunted house state.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I think both of us sort of had rural areas around us. So we had a few that you go out into the country, so in between towns, and there'd be big haunted houses. Some of them I did not like. I sort of missed it. I was either too young or I kind of missed going because I moved here. But a lot of the neighborhood would set up big, scary haunted houses, and the schools did it, and the fairgrounds would have one. Like I remember screaming at one for hours. We were 8th grade students, did it for the little kids at our school. And people would, in those days, people would touch you. Like they'd jump out and grab you and things. It was
the good old days. The ones in Indiana were scary because they were unsafe. They were usually created by the carnies from the local county fair. And WorkSafe would definitely not have allowed them. And it seems like even some of the ones that were out in the country, like you spoke of, Barbara, were ran by churches. And then they was for some reasons, put us on these things called hay rides that really went to nowhere. You would sit in the back of a wagon that was dragged by a tractor with a bunch of itchy hay. But for some reason, it was fun, and we looked forward to it.
It was the Harvest Festival.
It was fun.
But you did always wonder in those old barns or old houses whether your foot would go through the floor as you were wandering through.
We had to pay extra for that.
There is one in my area. I don't know if it's still running, but it is an abandoned insane asylum.
Ooh.
And someone has done a haunted house there, but I don't think you know what? I might just stay home and give out candy. I don't think I'd be adventuring into that. When I first moved here, and it would be the same, I would think, with you, Shawn, to be here a little bit longer, you couldn't find the Halloween pumpkins, which you can now find. And I paid my first Halloween pumpkin I found here, I paid like $60 for it. It was ridiculous. But I did it. But we'd have to get like the blue pumpkins that you'd have to just about hit with a hammer and your knife to carve.
Oh, what's with those blue pumpkins?
They make a lovely pumpkin soup, a very difficult jack-o'-lantern, I think. And now, actually, they do blue pumpkins, blue jack-o'-lanterns in the States, where they paint them blue for kids with food allergies, so they've got safe treats. And there's a new thing that Phil was talking about the other week, where people are using round watermelons.
And it makes, to me, it makes more sense because it's probably a third or quarter the price of buying a pumpkin, an orange pumpkin here at Kohl's. Yes, I think they were $2.50 a kilo. So you got to figure it's going to be 10 kilos. It's $25 for a pumpkin that you're not going to eat or anything. Yeah.
At least you can eat the center out of the watermelon.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And kids don't smash them like we talked about earlier as much. So you can invest a little bit more.
Yeah. And look, if you have some orange spray can paint, you could paint the watermelon orange, and it'll probably look the same. It's the same shape.
That's true. You can have that and fruit salad, but don't give that to the kids because you'll get your house egged.
Yeah.
It won't be me. I've retired.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have talked about how this is my favorite holiday. And I think it's because I have a creepy family. I have a very creepy family. My grandfather was a mortician for a period of time. So this is, he also used to sing this song to my mother, much like a lullaby. And my mother used to sing it to me. And then I have sung it to my children. And I realized it's a really horrible, fantastically horrible song. And it's called the Hearse Song.
Let's hear it.
And I'm going to recite it because I have not been drinking Bloody Marys while doing this. So the courage is down. But it is, the second verse is, and the worms crawl in, and the worms crawl out, and the worms play pinochle on your snout. They eat your eyes, and they eat your nose. They eat the jelly between your toes. And so it goes on. But it was a World War I traditional children's song from that era.
I don't ever remember having jelly between my toes. Is that something that other people have a situation with?
Yeah, I think we missed that. I don't know. Yeah. I remember having a little furry stuff in your belly button.
Oh, well, hey.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, my mom used to say, clean behind your ears, you can grow potatoes back there.
Yeah, so, I've heard that one.
Yeah.
But if you want to hear it, it's the Hearse Song, and it's on Spotify. And my children have looked at me like, I can't believe you sung that to me. I was like, I can't help it. We're a creepy family. But there are 3 verses of gold, I must say. So have a look and maybe play it while the children are earning their treat coming up to your doorway.
I think we're almost at the end of this, but I'll end up with a little bit of trivia. So the town in New Hampshire that holds the Guinness record for the most jack-o'-lanterns lit at one time, is unbelievable, 30,581. So 30,581 jack-o'-lanterns all lit at the same time in this little town in New Hampshire.
Let's try to beat it.
That would be good. People should send pictures. If you've done a jack-o'-lantern, let us know. Send a picture to podcast@usafoods.com.au and we can have a look at it. Maybe put the best one up.
Yeah, put it on the website. It sounds like a deal.
And Shawn, thank you so much for being with us and sharing some old stories and warning us to keep our jack-o'-lanterns safe.
My pleasure. Nice talking with you.
Great to hear from Shawn. And back after the break, we'll come back with our secret code. Today's secret code that you're all waiting for is the word treat.
Please remember that you will be able to use that online or for click and collect orders. So not available in the shop, but online or click and collects. And that treat will give you a special discount, which is our treat. We'd like to let you know in the shop, we have been able to extend the hours, which is great. It gives everyone more of a time to get in. So we are Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5. And on Friday, we are now open until 8 p.m. So 10 to 8. And on Sundays, we are open from 11 to 4. So you can get down to 73 Cochrane's Road, Moorabbin, and we will be able to help you out with some goodies that you are in need of.
And don't forget, if you do have any comments or constructive criticisms, contact us at podcast@usafoods.com.au.
And we'd love to hear some of your favorite Halloween memories or how you got things started in Australia or helped celebrate it here. Because, we're at the beginning of, when a lot of us first got here, there was nothing. So we're making new traditions. So we'd love to hear that. And we got some feedback from, Leslie. Leslie's contacted us. I think she's just a weekly contact, which is great. She loved you and John having your chat last week. She thought it was lovely. And she had a couple of questions for you. Mm-hmm. One was, how did John and Donna end up in Atlanta?
Well, I think they ended up there because John retired and living in Staten Island, which is very high property taxes and everything. They found a better way. So they moved down to Georgia and where they could live much more comfortably, pay a lot less to the local governments. And then their daughter and family moved down there also. So they still have their son living up in Staten Island. Hopefully one of these days they're hoping that he would come down there, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon.
So he just has to, the only pay toll was that he had to has to put up with Braves fans, but other than that, he's all right.
Yeah, he's all right. He likes it there.
And Leslie wants Donna on the show. She says, "Where's Donna? Can we have Donna on the show?"
Beautiful, thank you.
Oh, Donna, Don Prim. Yeah. Anyway, but so yeah, Donna would be a lot of fun. So anybody else wants Donna? So if you do,
Beautiful.
let us know.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and the other thing is, since we did start this new tradition of Halloween here many years ago. Any other new traditions should we start here in Australia just to rattle people up? Come on, let us know.
That would be fantastic.
Now, our favorite part of the show, Nat Nosh. So our first day is Wild Food Day.
Is that like roadkill, or is that like foraging, or what is it?
I guess it's more like foraging, but I guess roadkill is like foraging,
That's true. You're not wasting anything.
Yeah, it's dead on the road. It's fair game, right? You just got to get there before the crows.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, Thursday, tomorrow, is National Oatmeal Day. I love oatmeal.
Yeah, well, the only oatmeal always you think about oatmeal being American. What do you think about? Quaker. The guy on the thing with the hat on looks sort of like the guy that's on the show on TV. Porn stars. The guy that from the museum. Same hat, I think.
Let's just clarify that. I think you're saying Pawn Stars. I just sounded like a little bit. The pronunciation can throw that and give it a whole new meaning. So
that's my East Coast accent. Correct. Yeah.
Yes, I like brown sugar cinnamon oatmeal is my favorite.
Yeah, oatmeal is really good. In fact, that's part of which I didn't do, which I'm remiss at, is I forgot to put the directions on my meatballs.
Oh, well,
that's one of the secret ingredients.
Okay, well, now you've got some more homework this week. We actually have a lovely customer, and we get a Quaker variety pack. So it's about, I think it's 42?
52.
Oh, 52. And because he wants his kids to grow up with the same flavor as he did for breakfast. And so I always knew when we got a new stock in, I'd see him not long after.
Now, here's a funny story. This is going back probably, 10 years or so ago. We had a container that had to go to CFC, which is like a quarantine thing, and had to be unloaded over there so they could look at it and make sure we weren't going to poison the Australians. And they had 2 day workers that were helping us unload the container. And these guys were Brits. So they were unloading it, and they're pulling out all this Quaker products. And when I was chatting with them, they thought that was some type of religious type product.
Oh, well, for the Quakers. So I get that.
Yes, they thought, this is like for some cult that's over here, the Quakers.
The Quakers, well, it is, well, actually, I don't know if there's Quakers. Do you know Richard Nixon was a Quaker?
He was a lot of other things, too.
I was waiting for that.
Okay.
Now, Friday has a very apt part of this day. It is National Candy Corn Day. You either love it or hate it.
Yeah, well, candy corn's always been one of those weird things. We know that as you get older, it's nothing but, basically sugar and food coloring, stuff like that. But as you're younger,
and a bit of wax.
Yeah, I remember just like trying to eat each little bit of it in a different color sequence to taste the difference.
I did the same thing, and there was no difference at all.
No.
And those are the ones that made my teeth hurt, and I felt like it was a waste of my dental problems by using that. I'd move on to something else.
Well, moving on is the next part of that day on the 30th is also National Donut Day.
Oh, that is a beautiful holiday. There's a tradition we can start again. Everyone bringing in donuts for breakfast at work. Remember that? You go in and there'd be the coffee's on and there'd be a dozen donuts waiting for you on the table.
Well, I don't remember that so much because being in New York, we weren't that much into donuts as such. We were more into like the coffee cakes,
right?
With the crumbs and all that. And that was like the big thing. But, going back to California and donuts, it's like donuts is like famous in California, which is like really sort of pretty weird because California is known for, all healthy, athleticism, and everybody's eating donuts in the morning.
Absolutely.
When I lived there, my favorite thing was if I had a morning appointment and before I got on the freeway, stop at the local donut shop, get a large cup of coffee, and then have one of these nice big cake donuts. And it wasn't a donut that's like with a hole in it. It was just like a big glob of cake with glazed chocolate icing on it. Unbelievably good. And probably, I don't know how many calories. Who cared? It was that good.
Well, that's true because you got your maple bars and your apple fritters and your crullers and I do miss it. Oh, I think a daughter of a
California bear claws.
Adore bear claws. If anyone wants to make some of those or tell me how, please do. I miss them terribly, but it's probably in my genes since a large part of my family is in law enforcement, and I worked at a car dealership, so both went with donuts.
And on the 31st on Halloween. Okay, so it's National Candy Apple Day. So last week we had toffee apple. Now it's candy apple.
And it will equally pull out fillings. It's break your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like I always wanted one. The idea was good, but by the time I got to the apple, you just chucked it because it was only the candy you wanted.
Yeah. But it was a good combination because the candy was now the difference between the toffee and the candy apple in America is toffee apples made with caramel and that they melt down and dip it in and then probably put some chopped nuts onto it. That's probably a little bit more edible. And the other one was just a hard candy, like colored red, that they dipped the apple into a stick and dipped it in. And it came out like really, you need a hammer to break it sometimes.
That's exactly right.
Candy.
Or your tooth.
And you can
hit someone with it if they're trying to steal your candy.
And there is something really that's pretty good for Halloween is UNICEF Trick or Treat Day. So I guess in some parts of the world, people will dress up and go out and trick or treat for UNICEF. And I'm sure they're not looking for candy. Yeah, they're looking for money.
I think, that would probably be similar to our Good Friday where they like the fireys come out or the fire department comes out and collects change for the Royal Children's Hospital. So I think that's awesome that they're able to do that. I don't know if I would have given up my spare change. I try to be a good person, but you never know. As a little kid, I might not have been it. And Sunday, National Bison Day. Have you eaten bison?
Not so much in America, but when we went up to Canada, Canada, that's like almost a national dish up there for, bison burgers, bison steaks. There's bison everywhere. Every restaurant you go, there'll be bison on the menu. Unfortunately, the Wild West killed most of the bison in America.
Yeah. But I think I've had buffalo at home, but I have not had bison. But the next holiday, I think, would be your wife's favorite holiday.
Deep fried clam day?
Yes. Doesn't Jeanette love a clam?
Yeah.
She loves clams.
And deep fried. She likes clams like the Italian way, linguine and clam sauce. And clams on the half shell. But the famous deep fried clams used to come from not Horn and Hearted, the other Howard Johnson's was famous for their deep fried clams. And they were just absolutely fabulous. The only way you get deep fried clams now, well, there's still some restaurants that serve it, but in America you could buy them frozen, and they come up pretty good.
I love clams. That is actually something I miss having here. It was only a special treat, but yeah, I do miss it. I try to order it if I can see it at home. Yeah. And we have National Vinegar Day. Does vinegar need a day? I don't know.
I don't think so. If it was National Wine Day, it's a different story, but that's like the bad wine day, we could call it.
Well, that's right.
Speaking of bad days, the next one is World
Vegan Day.
Vegan Day, yeah. Because I always pronounce the E like an A, as probably most of the Italians will, somehow I think that's my way out of it. How come you say it as an A, like not an E? Because because if it was an Italian word, the E is pronounced like an A.
Vegan Day.
Yeah. Okay.
Just stick with it. Yes, National Vegan Day. So we'll have some plant-based things to try. There's lovely. There's even lots of Italian dishes that are vegan.
Last night, okay, talking about vegan, I had a very old Roman pasta. Okay, so if you think back, the tomato did not come over to Europe until the New World was explored. Okay, so it came over very late. So the Romans never had tomatoes, right? So this one, this is one from my Aunt Connie, and we had this big cauliflower, and I put it into the pressure cooker, put a little olive oil on it, a little seasoning, put it in the pressure cooker for a very short time, like 2 minutes. But it came out very, very soft. And I said, oh, okay. But it tasted pretty good because it didn't cook into water. So it didn't get like washed out. So it had all the flavor. So what I did was I mashed it up.
Yeah.
Put a little bit more seasoning, some cheese into it. And well, it wouldn't be vegan because I did put, which the recipe calls for, is anchovies into it. So then when you heat it up and cook the anchovies, the little fillets of anchovies, they just disintegrate. They just melt into the flavor. And then mix that with the pasta, and that was the sauce. So it's a cauliflower sauce.
I suppose you can add a little extra salt in, and that'll make up for that anchovy, missing that anchovy a bit when you're doing a complete vegan dish. That sounds lovely. But yeah. I love something simple and good like that. That is perfection. And Monday is one of my faves again, National Deviled Egg Day. I love a deviled egg. Now, do you put paprika on top? Do you put sweet relish in? This is something else, guys. If you want to email us, I would love to hear your different deviled egg recipes because I will happily make my way through all of them.
So you make it like a little egg salad.
I do sweet relish and I do a little paprika on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the yolk. Yes, egg salad in the egg. And if I cook my eggs in the pressure cooker, my yolk centers better. So I have two good halves to cook, and it peels well.
Yeah. See, the only my aunts used to call it deviled eggs when we had it on Easter, but they were sweet. So they went out with the black coffee or the espresso, and
what did you put in it?
So they would take out the center and mash it up, mix it with sugar and ricotta cheese, okay, and make it really creamy, put it back in, and then pour honey over it.
That sounds amazing.
Yes. The middle tasted much better than the white. The white with the honey, I don't know, it wasn't like my best part, but the middle part with the yolk was just phenomenal.
Well, the white seed, that's just your cup to hold it.
Yeah.
Really. Mm-hmm. It is not the star of the show. And now, on Tuesday, it is National or World or both Sandwich Day.
Lord Sandwich, the inventor of it.
Yes, Earl of Sandwich. Because wasn't it a poker game was happening and he did want to get up to have a meal, so some meat went into two pieces of bread, or so I guess. Yeah, so
he was an earl.
He was. There's actually still an Earl of Sandwich. There's an estate. The family still living.
Wow. So you could get a lettuce and tomato sandwich, and when you're there. Well,
this is why I can't remember any of my PIN numbers because I remember all this stuff.
Well, being that it's in Britain, it's probably a cucumber sandwich.
Could have been. Been.
Well, I guess I don't know if he was related to the Duke of Earl, but that's another story. Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, so that's the last one of that till next week. That's really is just a fun part of the show. I enjoy that one so much.
Me too. And I've got like so many recipes to try. And I love it. As a people, we've got a national food or drink day for every day of the year. It's the best.
Terrific. It gives us something to look forward to. Hey, Barbara, what's on for next week?
Oh, next week is going to be a goodie. We're going to talk about what is Cajun food. And, I want to know, is Cajun versus Creole? What are some of the good dishes there? Because a lot of our customers come to us for specific ingredients that we try to carry for them.
Yeah, and there's so many great recipes that come out of that region, out of NOLA, which is New Orleans. So, there's just so much good stuff out of there, so much Cajun, Creole, soul. It just goes on. Going to New Orleans is a foodie's paradise.
Yes, and I can't wait. I think we'll have lots to talk about. I, unfortunately, have never made it to New Orleans, but I know you have, and we will have lots to chat about. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to send them ahead of time to podcast@usafoods.com.au, and we'll try to answer any questions for you on the day. We would also love for you guys to subscribe to us, and you can now subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and who knows where else. We're sharing up everywhere, which is fantastic, like a bad penny, as my grandmother used to say.
Yeah, something you step in the gutter, like, oh.
Oh, Phil. So we would love for you to do that, and share it. And that way, if you subscribe, you don't have to hunt around every week. We just pop in.
Okay, and before I say goodbye, I just want to, again, thanks Brendan, our producer, sitting there in the background, and his company, Fizz Farm. So if you need any production work, whether it be podcast or audio or visual, get a hold of Brendan at fizzfarm.com.au. And that will do it for me. So until next week, I'll see y'all.
See y'all later.